Hey guys, you ready to tear into your pit bike motor? I am too, so let's get after it right now. Hey guys, it's Brian. I'm back in the garage again today, and today we're continuing our CRF70 build. And if you saw the last video that I did where I took the engine out of this thing, you know how totally disgusting this motor was that came out of this bike. Honestly, I have never worked on a more neglected motorcycle than this bike. It is awful. But the guys over at T-Bolt USA have stepped up. They have decided to partner with us on this project, and we're going to trick this thing out. So it's going to be a gem when we're done. So I've had great luck with those guys. I highly recommend them. If you're working on a pit bike project like this, they have suspension parts, engine parts, modification parts. They've been really super to deal with. So if you're looking for pit bike parts, definitely give those guys a try. They are absolutely fantastic. You will not be disappointed. So on another note, Cameron Niamella sent us a nice little letter in relation to this broke to built bike building competition, and so I'll just read to you what he said. Hey Brian, thanks for being a part of the contest. I have watched all of your videos on YouTube, and the work you do is even better than mine. I have learned a lot from you. Okay. Given the skills you have, I'm 100% sure you'll be winning the pit bike division. I kind of feel sorry for the other guys attempting to compete against you, as they really have no chance. So that was really nice of him. I appreciate his confidence, and he was nice enough to send us some stickers too. So we got some cool bike stickers here, broke to built, whatever. So anyway, that was really nice of him. One thing I want to mention about this video is that the procedures that I use in this are specific to the Honda CRF50 and 70, but it's pretty much the same for any kind of pit bike that's a horizontal, air-cooled pit bike motor. So pretty much all the procedures that I'm using in this video you can use on your bike if you have a different type of bike. Also, as usual, I put timestamps in the description, so if you want to move around or if you're coming back again to look at a specific procedure in the future, I try to make it easy for people to get around on my videos. So with that said, if you guys are ready to tear into this bike, I am too. So let's pick up our tools and go to work. All right, so I'm starting this super nasty CRF motor, and I can't imagine what I'm going to see when I tear this thing open. So first we start by removing these valve adjuster hole caps. These are 17 millimeters. All right, the next job is the flywheel nut, and this is far easier to do with an impact driver. All right, next procedure is to remove the flywheel using this flywheel puller. That's a reverse thread. Oof. Magnets are so strong on those things. Inside this flywheel there's a washer, so don't lose track of that. I can't get the motor to spin over, so I could put this Woodruff key on the top, but I have to take that out next. So it took a little brute force to get that Woodruff key out, and I had to put the motor on the floor to do it. That thing's probably ruined. So start by removing this bolt and wire clamp, then pull the grommet out from the case. Then remove the ignition pulse generator mounting bolts and this clamp. Then remove the stator mounting bolts. After that, remove the ignition pulse generator and stator all as one assembly. Now I got to remove this stator base, and you may need an impact driver for this. Okay, that was friendly. Now I'm going to try to get the stator base up. Yay. There's some little O-rings here you don't want to forget. With the stator plate out of the way, you can remove this sealing bolt. It's a 14 millimeter socket. Then slide out this tensioner spring and push rod assembly. Cool. Now we got this pivot bolt, and that just looks like something that impact driver needs to be working on. That was easy. Now I can remove this tension arm and these little tensioner rollers. Now we're going to loosen this nut that accesses the cover plate on the other side. It just feels like another one of those impact deals. So we give this bolt a little whack, and hopefully that cover plate will come off. Oh yeah. Remove these Cam Sprocket bolts.
Then try to remove this dowel pin.
And pull out the Cam Sprocket. loosen both valve adjusters to their maximum so we can take the cam out. To get the cam out, you actually reinstall these screws. All right, I expect this to start getting juicy now. So we're gonna remove the cylinder head by starting with these cap nuts. Now this is one of those funny spots where the manual just says remove, and I have a feeling this head is not gonna come off without a lot of motivation. Can't wait to see what nastiness awaits. We're getting real close to removing the cylinder now, so this cylinder mounting bolt needs to come loose. I'm pretty confident this is not gonna come off without a fight. Let's see if we get a little mallet action on it. So the dowel pin came up with it. Check that out. I actually put some Marvel mystery oil in there for probably 3 weeks or so, just to hopefully get some of that rust out before I try to take that piston out, as it is not gonna be easy, I'm sure. Anyway, that is quite gross. So to get the piston out, I used my crankcase splitter, which I held in place using these big C-clamps, and then I stuck a socket into the bore and pressed it out. I had to use some pretty aggressive measures, as you saw, to get that piston out. Showing how to take out wrist pins is never easy. It's just a hard thing to see, but we're gonna see if we can get this circlip out from the wrist pin and remove that piston off. There we go. That's just not coming out, so we're gonna skip that. This wrist pin was extremely stuck, and I'm replacing the piston and the wrist pin with new piston and actually new crank. So I'm not going to be super gentle about taking this thing out, but I just wanted to show you one way of doing it. I like to use a socket of the same size as the wrist pin. This one has a very thin wall, so the closest that I could get to fitting this was actually an American socket, a 9/32. So I'm going to drive that out with a brass hammer. Pretty brutal. So let's just jump back in the video and we will start with the clutch cover. Ugh. Now we're going to start working on the clutch cover case, removing these bolts that hold it on. So now I'm going to try to split this cover off. Gentle, gentle, gentle. Next we remove these dowel pins for the right crankcase cover. Alright, next we're going to remove this ball retainer and the spring and this lifter arm. So remove this clutch lifter cam plate and the oil through. Next remove these clutch outer cover screws. Then you can remove the outer cover. So it's kind of hard to see, but there's a lock washer tab right there. I'm gonna have to bend. We're gonna try to hold this clutch by hand and see if this clutch lock nut tool can spin that off just with the impact. A little prayer right now. Hey, hey, hey. Now we can extract out this lock washer. All goes well, the clutch should come off. Next to the primary drive gear and the collar behind. There's a snap ring here. Now with that snap ring off, we can take off the drive gear. Sweet. Moving on, so now we take off this stopper arm bolt, this return spring. There's usually a collar behind there. Yeah, keep all that together. And next pull down this gear shift arm, and then the whole spindle assembly should come out. There it comes. Next we remove the shift cam plate. All right, and there are some dowel pins that need to be removed. So now we're moving on to the Kickstart spindles. Snap rings are directional, and to me the easy way to remember which direction they went in is to put some kind of indexing mark on them like this, so you'll know which side faces out when you put it back in. So let's take that snap ring out. Kapow. And then we've got to take the Kickstart spindle out and get that spring out. Original video, the focus got lost, but basically to get this spring out, what you need to do, I raised it with a screwdriver around this protruding area that's proud of the crankcase face. I lifted it up with a screwdriver. Then when I got enough space, I took these needle nose pliers and basically lifted it out over the protruding area like this. With the Kickstart return spring off, we can flip the motor around and remove this rubber cap. And then we remove this bolt. Now we're ready to remove these crankcase bolts. When you split crankcases, the bolts should be loosened incrementally, not all in one operation, because the crankcase halves can warp, so you do this slowly. I'm going to continue on by removing the oil pump. It's easy to miss this rotor shaft collar inside the crankcase, so just don't forget to pull that out. I'm going to use my crankcase splitter to split these cases. This unit is made by Tusk. Basically, you line it up over some points where you can thread in rods. I'm threading these rods into the sides of the crankcase where originally the crankcase cover bolted. You want to sink these threaded rods in pretty deep, push this down against the crank, and tighten it. Crescent wrench does everything. Crankcases are now splitting. Usually they make a pretty significant popping sound, which can be a little unnerving, but in this case it did not. When you're using a crankcase splitter and you start to get a separation, follow along this separation line to try to keep it breaking evenly across the whole face. You don't want to bind the crankcase by over tightening just this one half. Gentle, gentle. Feels pretty loose. All right, let's see what we got. With the crankcase halves separated, remove the dowel pins. And at this point we should be able to separate the crankshaft out of the crankcase halves. Let's see. Hey, nice. Not too difficult at all. So now we have the crank out. We're ready to take out the Kickstart spindle. And when you pull this out, make sure not to lose track of this washer. So now we're going to try to remove this transmission all as one assembly with the shift drum and the main shaft and counter shaft coming out together. And you always look for the washers. All right, then lastly we're going to remove this guide sprocket and spindle. The manual doesn't tell you how to do that, but it is screwed in. Now we got a completely stripped down crankcase halve, ready to go to vapor blasting. So is that the nastiest motor ever? I mean, it's just so disgusting. But hey, so I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate everybody that takes the time to watch these videos. I hope that you will follow along and watch this entire series that we're going to be doing on this CRF. We've got a lot of cool stuff coming up, suspension mods, Cerakoting, a lot of cool things are going to be coming up. So just want to say thanks once again. I made a lot of friends doing these videos. It's been really, really fun. So I'll keep making the videos as long as you keep liking them. So I appreciate it. If you like my videos, feel free to like and subscribe. If you want to ask a question, obviously feel free to do that. But most importantly, have fun in your garage.